Hey everyone, welcome to today's Cornerstone Connection Daily Devotional. My name is Nate Carter, and today we're going to finish the book of Ephesians with Ephesians chapter 6, where we read the very famous section about the armor of God. Now, we're reading a book together as a staff called A Praying Church by author Paul Miller. And in that book, he actually references this section of Ephesians and puts a completely different twist on it that I had never known before. And this changes everything, guys. It emphasizes that the armor of God is not a passage written to an individual, but it's written to a collective. It's written to the church. It's written to a group of people. And so in it, Paul is saying not just to one person for him or her to put on the armor of God, but rather for a group of people together to put on the armor of God. I want to read from Paul Miller his kind of description of this passage. In fact, he rewords it slightly so that we can understand it in the English language, where we miss the importance of the plural. So let me read from Paul Miller. He says, "Finally, all of you be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Together put on the whole armor of God, that all of you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, all of you take up the whole armor of God, that together you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and together, having done all, to stand firm. All of you stand together, therefore, together having fastened on the belt of truth, and together having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for all of your feet, having together put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up together the shield of faith, with which all of you can together extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and together take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God." Miller continues. He says, every Sunday school image of the armor of God shows an individual soldier, but Paul isn't equipping an individual soldier. He's equipping an army of saints. No soldier fights alone. Now, doesn't that change the whole picture for you? I mean, we've learned the armor of God since we were in Sunday school, right? And I imagine myself, we were kind of laughing about this as a staff. I imagine myself like standing there alone, with my armor around me clattering because I've got this whole army coming up against me and I've got to somehow stand on my own. But rather, it's not about building up a single soldier, but rather enlisting an entire army. And that's what Paul is trying to do here, is to encourage us all to work together so that we may stand together against the forces of the evil one. Last week, I wrote in our weekly newsletter about the idea of togetherness. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that is a recurring theme throughout the Bible, and particularly in the New Testament, that God calls us to work together to accomplish the goals of the kingdom, for us to together support one another. I think about Jesus sending off the 72. He sends them off 2 by 2 so that they can proclaim the good news of the gospel, but he doesn't send them alone. He sends them in pairs. I think about Ecclesiastes, where Solomon says that 2 are better than 1, because if one falls down into a ditch, the other one can pull him up. And throughout the Bible, we hear of the building up of the church to be a community that supports and encourages and corrects one another. Guys, we're not supposed to do faith alone. And that's contrary to what I think as Americans we champion the individual and the individual success. But that's dangerous, that's risky, that's dare I say impossible to be a Christian that stands alone. At least it's very, very difficult. So I encourage you today, if you are finding yourself alone, if you found yourself pulling away perhaps from your activities in your local church, You're going to find yourself in a risky position. We're not supposed to stand alone. We're supposed to stand together. So I encourage you to find ways to connect back in, to connect with another trusted friend as an accountability partner, as a praying partner, to continue to gather together in worship, so that we can sit together under the teaching of the word and to worship God together, to join a growth group, or if you're another church, a small group of some kind where you can build each other up. We're supposed to do this together. So find ways of joining together and putting on together the armor of God so that we can stand against the power of the evil one and stand firm until the day of Christ's return. See you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.